with all due respect to Toronto and New York City, Chicago is the great city of the Western Hemisphere. And I'm not even a Chicagoan, okay? I still live in and around New York, but Chicago is the place. And when it comes to theater, the energy and the yeast and the explosiveness and the rage and the fun that comes out of that place is just unbelievable, the best. In any case, Bob and I met. I was doing a play by a wonderful playwright named Ron Hutchinson called Rat in the Skull, and it's about Northern Ireland. Wonderful play. This was the second of his plays that I'd done. In fact, Nick Woodison, who I had done Says I, Says He with in Los Angeles, and that's a Ron Hutchinson play, Irish play again. Nick is just finishing up doing Max in Homecoming at Stratford in England. So he and I have traded some very interesting phone calls. And Nick's coming over to see the last couple of performances of our show. Any case, Bob and I started doing plays at the Goodman Theater. First thing we did was Galileo, a hard play. I mean, that's the great thing about working with Bob. You know, we would try to outguess each other as to how difficult we could make it for ourselves. I think the second play we did was the O'Neill play, A Poet. What is
Touch
it?
of the Poet.
Touch of the Poet. Very hard play. We then did Iceman Cometh, even harder. And we did Iceman in Ireland, as well as Chicago. Had a ball with it. And we've done really, really hard plays. And then it culminated in him calling me up saying, I want to do Death of a Salesman. And I said, oh, everybody knows that play. And he says, you know, not everybody knows that play. And which is true. You know, people think that they know the play, but they don't. You know, it turns out that people came in and saw the play and said, you know, I really didn't see it before. So that was a big hit, and Long Day's Journey was a big hit. But the point is that being in the movies in those years allowed me to do these other things, and they took on a life of their own, and which is how I wound up here, which is this place, Stratford, is the best theater company in the world. Without any, what's the word? Without any sense of rancor, I can say that I'm the 10th or 12th best actor in that company. There are 9 or 10 people of both sexes who are way ahead of me. And that's the truth. I'm not making that up. Believe me, I know that. Because I know actors. I've watched them for years, and there are, in the plays alone that I'm doing, there are 3 or 4 actors who I couldn't hold their jock. And you've got to cherish this institution as Canadians. You better appreciate it. You better understand it and appreciate what you have, because it doesn't exist anyplace else. And it's fragile. It's easily broken. So don't break it. It's very, very special.
Let's open up to the audience. If we have any questions for Mr. Dennehy, please come to the microphone, if we can, because we'd like to get them recorded, okay? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You said that working with Peter Greenaway, you weren't entirely sure what he meant. Having just seen The Homecoming, I'm not entirely sure what Mr. Pinter meant. You played a character who, among others, told many versions of the same story. It was very difficult for me to find any truth in it. And I wondered how you could approach playing Max, who doesn't seem to have any background story that we usually find in people. So how did you approach it?
Well, I could give you Pinter's response Pinter did a lot of directing. And when an actor asked him, as certainly I would have, had he been directing, what is, Mr. Pinter, you wrote this play and you're directing it. What does this mean? And Pinter's response was, none of your fucking business. Just learn the lines. The thing is this. When you saw, let me ask you a question. When you saw this play, while you were seeing the play, when you got up and walked out of the play, did you feel uncomfortable and disturbed? That's the point. If you want to know what the point is, that's the point. But confused. Also the point. Now, that's a. Well, my approach is, ultimately my approach was to attack the audience as hard as I could. The thing that I tried to do was to make you all feel as uncomfortable and as nasty and as unclean as I could. Because that was his point. And the reason for all of that is, if you understand anything about Pinter, is that that's what Pinter sees as his job. To disturb you. You come in, you sit down, we're going to see a play. Homecoming. It's about Thanksgiving. Well, it's not about Thanksgiving. And it's not about homecoming, and it's not even about home. It's about not having any areas in the world, including home, including any place, including in the theater, that are safe. None. There is no safe place. There's no place that can make you feel, I don't have to worry about anything here. Even the theater, even a place that you pay $120 for to sit down and be entertained, can piss you off and make you feel disturbed and upset and confused and come out saying, what the hell was that all about? That's what it's about. I don't know if that's an answer, but it's the only one I got.
Great, thank you. Great. Next question.
Okay, I have an O'Neill program. Perhaps you could sign later, if that's okay. I have an O'Neill program you could sign later, if that's okay.
Okay.
Now you're, of course, a great O'Neill actor. You played virtually every role that Jason Robards played, with exception, I guess, of James Tyrone Jr. and Moonful and Misbegotten.
I didn't play Junior. I played James Tyrone Sr.
He played Senior and
But Robards played Jamie Jr., which I was always too old to play.
Okay, so you've not played. Well, he was fairly old when he played it opposite Colin Dewhurst, wasn't he? Anyway, my question is this. You played Theodore Hickman in the past, and Theodore Hickman, of course, affects everyone in the play. Let it be a forthcoming production. Nathan Lane will be playing him, and you'll be playing Larry Slade, who perhaps only affects one person, but the young boy who commits suicide, probably because of his discussions with Larry Slade. So it's not like Othello and Iago, where you have two equal parts. Larry Slade is not as important as Theodore Hickman, which you played in part. So how do you feel playing the second most important person?
Well, first of all, I don't agree with that. Larry Slade's a much more complicated character than that. Larry Slade, it's not his relationship with the young boy is not just that. You forget that Slade was a union organizer, a guy who believed in, O'Neill refers to it as the movement, the revolution. This is now taking place in 1910, 1912 on the lower west side of Manhattan. Actually, Jimmy the Priest's bar was on the site of the World Trade Center. 50, 60 years before. And he has become thoroughly disillusioned with the possibility of world revolution. And he's sitting in this bar, as the rest of these people are, essentially drinking himself to death, just waiting to die. But when he speaks, out of his rage and out of his fury and out of his darkness and his frustration with the life that he's led and the hopelessness of what his struggle was, you feel inescapably the humanity of the man, the huge decency of the man. The fact that even with Hickey or Hickman, he at some point understands what a tortured person he is. And the boy, I mean, the wonderful thing about O'Neill's writing, especially of Larry Slade, is that he has Larry Slade saying constantly, I hate the world, I hate everybody in it, I have no understanding or patience or room for sympathy for anyone in the world anymore. Everybody to me is worthless, is useless, and he does not mean a word of it. So the responsibility of the actor is to accomplish both those things, to say those words, at the same time to communicate the fact that he doesn't mean it. If anything, he's the most sympathetic character on the stage. And his heart, however broken it may be, is the biggest and fullest and most bleeding heart on the stage. It's a huge demand upon the actor. And probably the most difficult part in the play, for all the reasons that I've just mentioned. And so it's not necessarily the size of the part, it's the size of the role, it's the size of the responsibility. Now the real fact of the matter is, I'm too old to play Hickey. Nathan Lane's a huge star. He wants to take it on, and he and I have been friends for a long time, and he wants me to play the part, and I'm lucky to be there. As I said to Stephen Ouimet, who's going to play Harry Hope, I said, Stephen, got to be in the room. You got to be in the room. We're lucky. We're all of us lucky, because we're going to spend 6 weeks in Chicago in the spring, being in this room, 15 or 20 of us, and we're going to get to explore this play with this amazingly talented man, Nathan Lane, and a whole bunch of other talented people, doing one of the hardest plays ever written. And that's why I do this, for that to happen. So, aside from the fact that I don't agree with anything you said, I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. Yes, next question, please.
Hi, Brian. As with a lot of great people, through life lessons and wisdom acquired through their life, they can distill all that into one piece of advice. What advice would you have to give? And how did you learn this lesson? Who taught you this?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. I would say this, as I say to my kids repeatedly, there is nothing more interesting and fulfilling in life ever than work, whatever that work is. Now, can there be jobs that are not fulfilling and boring? Sure, but you don't have to do them. I did every damn boring-ass job you can do. I drove trucks, I worked as a bartender, I worked as a waiter, but everything that I did was always kind of fun. It was always kind of interesting. It's really the point of view. But eventually I got my way around to this. And I'm 73, and people say to me all the time, when the hell are you going to quit? Jesus Christ, why would I quit? I since the time I can remember, I've grabbed my life like a mango, and I've mashed it into my throat and just rubbed the juice all over my face. Why would anybody else live any differently? Now, I've drank too much, I've screwed around too much. At one time I went through stuff with sailboats, and I sailed across the Pacific by myself, I sailed up the Atlantic by myself, whatever it was that I wanted to do, I did. And I did it as hard and as tough and as uncompromisingly as possible. And most of all, it's the work. It's going to Chicago on March 12th, starting rehearsals. I'm being in the room trying to figure something out, something that was written 50, 60 years ago, but which still has meaning and blood and semen and sweat in it. And the